They told us feminism was about freedom. About equality. About giving women the right to choose. But what if that wasn't the whole story? What if powerful elites, think tanks, intelligence agencies, billionaires, saw an opportunity in the movement? An opportunity to reshape society. To increase control. To profit. From whispers of CIA-backed magazines to claims that the nuclear family was deliberately dismantled, some believe feminism was never just about liberation. It was a system reboot, engineered from the top down. Too far-fetched? Or hiding in plain sight? This episode dives into the uncomfortable questions. Who really benefits from modern feminism? Why did the CIA support feminist media? And is the feminist agenda a conspiracy, or a convenient myth to keep us divided? Let's unpack the facts, the theories, and the truth behind the headlines. For decades, feminism has been widely seen as a grassroots movement, a fight for equal rights, equal pay, and autonomy. But some conspiracy theorists argue there's a hidden layer beneath that noble surface. According to this view, the second wave of feminism, which gained traction in the 1960s and 70s, wasn't entirely organic. Instead, it was co-opted, or even engineered, by powerful elites with a very different agenda. The theory goes like this: globalist institutions, wealthy families like the Rockefellers, and even U.S. intelligence agencies allegedly saw feminism not as a threat to power, but as a strategic tool. By encouraging women to enter the workforce en masse, they could achieve three major objectives. 1. Double the taxable population. 2. Earners per household meant more government revenue. 2. Drive down wages. With more competition for jobs, labor became cheaper. 3. Weaken the nuclear family structure, making individuals more dependent on the state and less on each other. Some even claim this was a long-game tactic: destabilize traditional roles, blur gender norms, and introduce a generation of children raised more by institutions than by parents. In this framework, feminism was the perfect ideological Trojan horse, seemingly empowering, but secretly serving the goals of centralized control. The theory gained traction in conspiracy circles after public figures like Aaron Russo, a Hollywood director and one-time political insider, claimed in interviews that a Rockefeller family member openly discussed this agenda with him. According to Russo, the plan was clear: free women from the home, not to liberate them, but to enslave them differently. To debt, consumerism, and constant productivity. It's a chilling idea, and one that challenges the widely accepted narrative. But is there truth to it? Or is this just another attempt to discredit progress? Let's keep digging. To understand why some believe feminism was exploited by powerful interests, you have to follow the money. When women entered the workforce in large numbers during the second half of the 20th century, the change was massive, not just socially, but economically. At first glance, more women working seems like a clear victory for equality. But beneath that, something else was happening: the structure of the economy quietly shifted. Suddenly, most households became dual income, and with that shift came new financial expectations. Housing prices, cost of living, and basic necessities began to rise in response to families now having two paychecks instead of one. Over time, what was once a choice, to work or not, became an economic requirement just to stay afloat. From the conspiratorial perspective, this wasn't an accident. It was a strategic outcome that benefited governments and corporations more than it benefited families. More workers meant more competition in the job market, wages stagnated, job security weakened, and employers held more power than ever. Meanwhile, with double the labor force, tax revenue exploded. Families worked harder and longer, yet many still struggled to get ahead. On top of that, the explosion of working mothers created a massive new consumer market, for daycare, convenience food, fast fashion, self-help products, and beauty. Entire industries were built on the backs of women entering public life, and corporations capitalized on every insecurity, expectation, and time-saving need that came with it. In this view, the feminist movement, while empowering on the surface, was redirected by economic systems that knew exactly how to profit from it. Feminist ideals were repackaged and sold back to women as empowerment, while the real empowerment, economic independence, security, and family stability, slipped further out of reach. This doesn't mean that feminism was a lie. But it raises the question. Was equality the goal for everyone involved, or just the bait? But wait. If you like this video, please give us a like, leave a comment behind, and don't forget to subscribe, since we have a new video every day. And now, let's roll back to the video. One of the most provocative pieces of evidence cited by believers in the feminist agenda theory involves something unexpected: the CIA. In the early 1970s, Ms. Magazine, a groundbreaking feminist publication co-founded by Gloria Steinem, became a voice for the women's movement in America. It championed equality, reproductive rights, and social reform. But behind its glossy covers and bold headlines lies a detail that continues to fuel suspicion. Gloria Steinem once worked with an organization that received CIA funding. Before founding Ms. Steinem was involved with the Independent Research Service, a group that organized youth festivals and cultural events as part of a Cold War-era soft power strategy. That group, she later confirmed, had received financial backing from the CIA. The goal? Counter Soviet influence among young people by promoting American values and liberal democratic ideals abroad. And what better way to do that than through popular, progressive figures? Critics point out that Steinem's past connection, while not a secret, was never widely discussed in feminist circles. And this leads some to wonder, was Ms. Magazine just another tool of influence, wrapped in progressive ideals but strategically used to shape the culture at home and abroad? The theory goes even deeper. During the Cold War, the CIA wasn't just fighting military battles, it was in a full-scale information war. Controlling narratives around gender, family, and national identity was a form of social engineering. Encouraging women to leave the home, embrace individualism, and reframe traditional roles may have served both ideological and economic goals, weakening collectivist family units, increasing labor force participation, and promoting consumer-driven independence. From this perspective, Ms. Magazine wasn't just media, it was messaging. Carefully curated. Widely distributed. And backed, however indirectly, by one of the most powerful intelligence agencies on Earth. Of course, this doesn't mean every writer, editor, or reader was part of some grand deception. Movements are often genuine, even when co-opted. But this piece of history suggests that some doors to cultural revolution might have been opened, not by activists alone, but by strategists in suits. The question then becomes: was this just a Cold War relic, or part of a larger pattern of narrative control that still exists today? Now that we've unpacked the theory, its historical roots, economic consequences, and curious ties to intelligence agencies, it's time to step back and ask: how much of this is true, and how much is convenient myth? Let's start with what's real. Yes, Gloria Steinem had involvement with a CIA-funded organization during the Cold War. Yes, governments and corporations have benefited economically from an expanded workforce. And yes, the feminist movement has occasionally aligned with broader political or economic interests. These are facts, not speculation. But where the conspiracy falls apart is in the leap from coincidence to control. The idea that feminism was entirely engineered by elites ignores a long and well-documented history of grassroots activism, dating back centuries. Women fought for education, voting rights, workplace equality, and bodily autonomy long before any intelligence agency took notice. From the suffragettes of the 1800s to unionizing textile workers to women marching for civil rights, this was not a movement handed down from the top. It was built from the ground up, often at great personal cost. Even the narrative of the two-income trap misses a key point: many women wanted to work. For millions, entering the workforce wasn't manipulation, it was liberation. It meant freedom from abusive homes, access to financial independence, and the chance to define their own identities. That doesn't mean the economic system was perfect or fair, but it's a mistake to frame female empowerment as purely a tool of the elite. Also, blaming feminism for broken economic systems overlooks the real culprits: corporate deregulation, wage suppression, political inaction, and rising inequality. These forces affect everyone, not just women. Suggesting that women entering the workforce caused economic strain flips cause and effect, and diverts attention away from those who are actually in power. Finally, the idea of a coordinated feminist agenda simplifies a diverse, often divided movement. Feminism is not a monolith. It's a spectrum of ideas, theories, and goals, many of which actively challenge the status quo, not serve it. If it were a controlled operation, it's doing a remarkably bad job of staying unified or quiet. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a complicated truth: powerful systems do sometimes co-opt progressive movements. They fund what serves them, ignore what doesn't. But that doesn't mean the movement itself is illegitimate. It means we have to stay alert, ask hard questions, but also avoid lazy cynicism. Not everything is a conspiracy. And not every empowered person is a pawn. At the end of the day, feminism, like any movement, is what we make of it. It can be used, twisted, or sold back to us. Or it can still be a force for change. So, was feminism a revolution from the people, or a recalibration by the powerful? We've seen how real history, economic shifts, and even government involvement can create a landscape where a conspiracy feels plausible. There are strange connections. There are unintended consequences. But we also need to be careful. Questioning power doesn't mean we should blindly reject progress. Feminism has undeniably improved lives, giving women rights, voices, and freedoms that were once unimaginable. But like any movement, it's existed alongside systems that do seek control. That's not a contradiction. That's the reality of living in a world where ideas can be both liberating and manipulated. The real danger? It's not feminism. It's letting conspiracy theories become a way to divide us, turning legitimate criticism into cultural warfare. So the next time someone says, feminism was a trap, maybe ask them this: whose trap? And who are you letting off the hook by saying that? Thanks for watching.